starting out, what does everybody here, don't spoiler, what does everybody here have in common? All of our customers, every single partner. Just shout it out.
Filling bottles.
You're all different. Now you're all the same because you're not reacting, but normally you're all very individual is the point we're making. We know this, right?
Oh,
we are well aware of that. Yesterday we also said we know you have very individual needs. Your solutions that you require, they vary. We know this and we would like to adapt to that, and we would like to guide you along every individual journey. So the questions we would like to answer here today are, how exactly can we support each and every one of our customers on their journey, and also what lies in the future ahead? Now, to find the answers to these questions, I would like to formally introduce these four who are waiting very patiently. Thank you for that. Marcus, to my right. First of all, Marcus coordinated digital development initiatives for Krones Ingenic line, which has been launched and introduced formally yesterday, and has been motivating a modernization of OT with IT technology for many years now. Let's hear it for Marcus. Welcome and good morning.
Good morning.
Also, what does Alex do? Well, Alex makes sure that data at Krones is treated like the valuable asset that it indeed is for all of our customers and partners. He's very talented in turning complex rules, for example, the EU Data Act, into something that we can actually grasp and understand, something that works easily in day-to-day business life, so that you do not have to take care of all of those notes and the fine printed material when it comes to a legal matter. Welcome and good morning to you, Alex.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Now, Christian he has a special role because he closely follows the recent cybersecurity trends, and one of his strong suits is actually, in my words, nagging away at certain departments, nagging away at the development teams to make sure that they take cybersecurity very seriously by constantly bugging them with the same question over and over again until the job is done. Correct, Christian?
Yeah, correct.
Let's hear it for his nagging. And last but not least, we have Philip. Philip, you bring a comprehensive view of artificial intelligence into play, and you keep very busy with the identification as well as implementation and operation of AI-based solutions. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and I think we should hop right to it looking at the clock. Marcus, to kick it off, if anyone here may now think, okay, in my department, in my segment, what they're speaking of today is not necessarily very relevant, what do you have to say to them? Why are all of these topics important to everyone in the audience right now this year at DrinkTech?
Thank you, Jasmine, for the introduction and the perfect lead into today's stream. We have enough presentations. Because I think, and that showed yesterday's presentation and all of that we heard about the Ingenic line, I believe we are at a turning point in our industry, right? The production landscape is evolving, it's changing, but definitely it is evolving. It has evolved since the last DrinkTech 2022, and it will continue to do so. And what I have in mind is not just biotechnology, right? But because of regulation. That's why we have some experts here on the stage talking about regulations. They influence technologies, they influence our processes. But what has become obvious already yesterday is that the classic separation between mechanics, mechatronics, and IT, that is not the case any longer. Our systems have become an integrated part of machines and their processes of our products. They are embedded, they are essential building blocks. Yeah, without that, the machinery is no longer what it used to be and doesn't leverage the complete means they had. So, which basically leads me to the claim that traditional setups are not sufficient any longer. And a traditional setup in a production line means we face isolated networks, limited connectivity for security reasons, right? And but you can't run a smart factory with all of its purpose on a flip phone technology, can you? That doesn't work. Yeah? So IT and digitalization brings great opportunities to further increase efficiency, to run holistic automation technology, and of course data-driven services like as a foundation for AI businesses. But obviously it comes with challenges also, like increased attack surface. If there is connectivity, someone, some script kiddie, whatever, can try to hack into this system. But that's why we have security experts. And of course, the further you increase the amount of IT system and solution, you need the adequate skills or support from Krone's side in that. And another challenge would be the regulatory pressure. And you face compliance. We need to fulfill certain regulations, not just in the EU, but across the globe. In all markets, there's some form of regulation, right? And we need to be compliant. But we got you covered from Krone's side. As we already heard yesterday, there had been targeted initiatives with the Ingenic line, for example, but also other things we're going to face today and hear about, like the connect and secure machinery. So there's not only technical solutions, but there's also a comprehensive offer of services, support, because we think digitalization, it's not about technology, it's about building a relationship, a partnership throughout the life cycle of all of what we do.
So thank you for that, for setting the tone, Markus. As you can tell, this can go into way more depth. So if you have any questions, the entire team is going to be right here and looks forward to a conversation. I'm just saying that straight away because we're not going to be able to go into all the detail. Now, Markus did already name some of the challenges we're facing, right? But we're going to flip things around and look at one of the solutions you're actually offering. Yep. We did mention, or in the introduction I mentioned, IT-OT convergence, a big topic right now. So Markus, perhaps you can just walk us through how do IT and OT intertwine, and what is new about this? What has changed and what is relevant to everyone within the industry?
A good question, Jasmine. Also, it's kind of a cumbersome title, isn't it? IT-OT convergence sounds difficult, but what it basically means, it's merging the positive aspects of two worlds, right? That would be OT, operational technology, machines, their sensors, actuators, logic controllers, whatever there is. And then there's IT, like the software, networking technology, or data platforms, right? And IT-OT convergence means merging all of these positive aspects, building a connected infrastructure, a solution landscape, so to speak, that makes sure that data is available from the shop floor, from the very bottom where data is created, to the top, that would be the cloud, and backwards if necessary, but only in a secure way, just like in a pipeline, yeah? Smooth data flow. And to give you an example, bottling plant, you already asked the auditorium about bottling plant. If we imagine traditionally in a bottling plant, the OT would control a filler or a capping machine, right? And IT would, in a classic fashion, just keep track of materials, the order state, produce pallets, whatever there is, right? Given the IT-OT convergence, the new form of digitalization, making all of that embedded and integrated, that means if there's a hiccup or slowdown on the filling machine, we can automatically trigger reactions. We could notify operators to conduct some operation procedure. We can also in the background already influence the schedule of maintenance, the schedule of production. Mm-hmm. All of that in the background without further intervention. All of this is possible if we integrate these systems and integrate both worlds to the benefit, right?
So just to underline what you've said, thank you so much, Markus. Philip, can I hand it over to you just to make it clear, because this is such a big topic, what are the main benefits, again, for the customers, always for the partners, of IT-OT convergence?
I would narrow it down to 3 benefits that I want to highlight. So the first one I would say is resilience and security. Because when you handle your OT components in the same way like you do with your IT components, then you always do regular updates. You always make sure that you install the latest security patches. And that helps you to protect your critical infrastructure from security threats. The second benefit is what I would call operational efficiency. And what I mean by that is, as Markus said, you combine the best out of both worlds. So on the one hand, you have your shop floor, the data that you collect, sensors, images, whatever. And on the other hand, you have the computational power of the internet, cloud computing. And then you can do great stuff when you, for example, collect a huge amount of data. You can take that data to gain insights. You can also apply artificial intelligence, for example, to build solutions across condition monitoring, predictive maintenance, and so on, helping you to reduce unplanned downtimes and therefore also cut down costs. And last but not least, I would also say agility and innovation, because Yeah, integrated systems, thanks to the IT-OT convergence, help our customers in the end to adapt faster to changing market demands or production changes, and that helps them to stay competitive and successful in this VUCA world we're living in.
Thank you for that, Philip. I'm going to give you, Christian, the role of the critic, since I introduced you as the person who likes to nag. There may be certain risks in converging, could be something that you're worried about. What about the transition itself? What are the main challenges? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, good question. I wouldn't call it a risk. It's more or less an opportunity that we are willing to take, because IT-OT convergence enables these new use cases. Take, for example, our line observation, where you can get visual insights into your line wherever you are, which is pretty cool, I guess. So this is possible with IT-OT convergence. But of course, coming back to your questions, there are also challenges. Challenges, without a doubt, connecting the modern world of IT to the mission-critical OT is something that we need to closely consider. Because you know how we secure OT nowadays? Just lock it up in a room, which is not working in the future anymore, I guess. So we are trying to balance and manage the complexity that goes with the connection by introducing standardized interfaces, by creating innovative solutions with the help of our partners. And I am pretty optimistic that we're having a good foundation for the future. But standardization is key, and I guess standardization is also important when it comes to data, I guess. Alex?
Yeah, thank you, Christian. So, some risks or opportunities are managed by standardization. So is the EU Data Act. It's in place since 2023. So what is the EU Data Act about? So everybody knows about data protection in terms of personal data, PII, data protection laws, or Cyber Resilience Act for infrastructure, digital products. The EU Data Act is looking at the production data itself. So the machine knows, for example, for IGENIC, how much labels are left, how much energy is used, how much water is used. And this is a very valuable insight into the production data of a brewery. And the EU Data Act is regulating this data that it belongs to the customer. So we at Krones driving solutions beyond tomorrow with this data and creating new values, and the EU Data Act is regulating this kind of data. So that is what it's about.
Thank you for that. We're going to circle back round to regulations and restrictions and the likes towards the end of the conversation if we have time. Thank you for that, Alex. Philip, I'd like to come back to you for a moment, because we now have already discussed solutions, and then those actually showed us what the challenges were. But you know how they say to know where you're going, you need to know where you come from. So let's just take a step back and just let me ask you the general question on this automation journey at Krones. Where do we even stand today?
Yeah, so
very small question, I know.
Sure. So when we look into the past, we can talk about 3 dimensions: data, security, and AI. And we have to admit that in terms of data, we had a large variety of different data formats. We had proprietary signal exchange, and only a very limited amount of data was passed in the automation pyramid onto the next level to get processed. Speaking for security, we also have to acknowledge that there was basically no encryption of PLC communication at all. So the effort for AI was very, very high, and that was also the reason why there were hardly no AI solutions at all. And when we now jump in time to the present and look into the future, then things change in a better way. Because speaking for data again, you have standardized data exchange formats helping you with the interoperability. You have new technologies like data platforms, analytic platforms, and also concepts like data governance that help you really to fuel data democratization. Look into security again, then you have new concepts like zero trust, or for example also the enforcement of new security policies across the whole landscape that really help you to create a very robust and secure infrastructure that you can now operate on. And this leads also for AI that we will see a better data availability, better data quality, and this helps us also with AI solutions that you can do continuous learning, so continuously collect data and improve your AI models over time. I would predict that we will see more and more AI use cases, and therefore also more and more added value coming out of it.
Just before we
Please.
continue, let me briefly define Zero Trust, what it is. So Zero Trust is a vision, it's an innovation that we use to create new solutions. So what is Zero Trust for us? First, holistic encryption. So as Philip mentioned, no encryption was there in the past. We have that now. We use it to secure your data wherever it is. Also, we have digital identities for every asset that we have in a line to then bundle it based on their functionality to isolate it. But we also have some battle-tested security patterns. So we try to harmonize how we do security, how we want to secure our line. And last but not least, transparency. So we have functionality in place to constantly monitor the activity of our line to be able to detect threats before they can do any harm. And all of this is part of Igenic.
All of this is part of Igenic, which is what we launched yesterday with a big bang.
Exactly.
Thank you for underlining that as well. And we only have a few minutes left. I would really like to circle back around to the rules and regulations bit, because this is something that nobody here can maneuver around, right? This is something that is going to be everybody's, or is always everybody's business. So just to ask briefly, at Krones, how do you make sure that you facilitate your partners in obliging to all of these rules and regulations when things are moving so quickly? Also based on the political situation, they're moving a lot quicker than they were in the past. Everything's moving quicker, right? So how do you facilitate and how can you support your partners here?
Yeah, thanks. So at Krones we make it work. So we're looking at the three areas with our technology first, the processes, and the most important, people. We start with the technology right from the start. So by creating our data, we are classifying it according to the EU Data Act. We move it all along through the interfaces, digital products, where the customer can safe and secure access the data. Next are the processes where we are looking at how our customers want to consume this data. So we are setting up these routes of the data flow to every interface and digital product. And then third, we skill the people so that in every project we know about the importance of this regulation and what we need to do. So for us, to summarize, it's technology, processes, and people. And that is how we make it work for our customers, so they don't have to worry about, they can consume the data at every interface, every digital product they are using, and in a safe and compliant way. So safety, again, Christian, is a great topic. Regulation.
Regulation, yeah. There's the upcoming Cyber Resilience Act, which is one of the most important regulation for cybersecurity in our industry, and it basically sets a set of mandatory requirements for every product that we have or that we can get in the European Union. And since we only have a few minutes left, I want to focus on two aspects of the Cyber Resilience Act. First, security by design. So security by design is something that we have in mind always when we create new solutions. And we also adapted the development process to reflect that vision. Basically what we do at the beginning, we do extensive threat modeling. We do constantly test our components for security during development, but also before releasing it. And of course, we are constantly monitoring the threat surface. We mentioned the attack surface at the beginning out there to make sure that we can keep that component secure. And that brings me to the second most important aspect of the Cyber Resilience Act. It's security updates. So we created that Connect and Secure to make sure that the customer can stay secure over the lifetime of his machine. And Connect and Secure enables the customer to stay connected to Krones headquarters and also the experts. And with the Krones World production, he has then the right tooling at his hands to apply security updates whenever we release them, to ensure that security is not something that you have at that point, but during the whole lifetime of the machine. And then the customer can focus on what he really, what's really important to him. And yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, what's really important is to financially flourish despite all of the obligations that you need to keep up with, right? And that's going to be the final question. I'd like to hand that over to you, Philip, because we've heard all of these processes are very structured. You're in good hands when it comes to keeping up to date with rules and regulations on an EU level, especially. But you know, while you're doing this, you want to be actually earning money. So how do we make sure that we financially flourish while all this is still being done?
Yeah, so when I want or let me try to summarize the whole panel discussion into maybe 2 sentences.
Wow. I will learn from you.
I try. So the first sentence would be, basically, we all know that the whole legal obligations are very, very complex, and they also pose major challenges for our customers. And secondly, as far as I can promise, we at Krones, we have done our homework. We familiarized ourselves with all the legal regulations. We took the right actions, and we can really promise you that our solutions are 100% compliant to all the regulatory stuff. And when you look at Krones, then we basically, what we did is we help now to turn all the risks into opportunities, and that's basically in a partnership also when you say success comes really from evolving together and not doing it completely by yourself.
That was very brief. Thank you for that, Philip. Those are perfect closing words, but Marcus, I'd like to hand it over to you one last time.
Yeah, I mean, brief summary of all what you heard is, I mean, Philip already said it in 2 sentences. I mean, the key takeaway from my perspective is security and compliance to regulations. That is nothing that is done at one certain point in time. That's something that needs to continue throughout the complete life cycle of our solutions and products. By design. It's not just at one distinct point in time. We need to challenge ourselves, we need to challenge the products, we need to keep them up to date, we need to keep them secure. But Krones obviously has built the foundation for that with Ingenic, AnyConnect and Secure. That is a solid foundation for new service models, new support models to make all of that happening throughout the life cycle. You need a foundation, and that's what we can provide. And I believe we found the direct answers to all of these challenges we heard today. We got, as I said, we got you covered. So I believe digitalization, by all of that, if we phase all of that in and use our options we have with digitalization, digitalization is not just about a technical thing, it becomes a strategic business advantage. It can increase efficiency, automation, can ease up things, has a lot of answers also for the process and the skill gap. So, I mean, as we have the pleasure of being the first talk in this track today, I will warmly invite you, everybody who is on site on the exhibition today, maybe in the next days, to join us here, close in the Ingenic booth, in the digitalization launch, and everybody who is watching us in the streams, please follow the further presentations. They will go into further details and explain our product solutions, what they exactly look like, what they can achieve, how they operate it, and thank you for having us today.
And don't forget, every challenge beholds an opportunity, and today is the slowest day of the rest of your life. It's something I heard on a digital level. Don't forget, you need a strong partner. It's the slowest day of the rest of your life. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Alex, Christian, and thank you, Philip. Let's hear it for our panelists, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.